agreement within 1 year. If the final 7 years to Armageddon begin on September the 2nd of 2011, what will you do? How do you plan to spend the final 7 years? We want to hear from you today on politics and religion.
Look, there are two things I don't discuss: politics and religion.
In my house, we don't talk about politics and we don't talk about religion.
I'll talk to you about anything except politics and religion.
I never talk about politics and religion.
Politics determines how we'll live here on earth. Religion determines how we'll live forever. I'm Irvin Baxter. I think it's time we talk about it.
The prophecy says that the final 7 years to Armageddon and the second coming of Jesus will begin when an agreement places the Temple Mount under a sharing arrangement. If Obama, Abbas, and Netanyahu reach their goal, the final 7 years will begin September the 2nd, 2011, 1 year from today. Now, here's the big question. This is for you. If that happens 1 year from today, what will you do? If you know that the final 7 years to Armageddon just begun, if you know the final 7 years to the second coming of Jesus to this earth just began, what will you do? Now, this is worth thinking about because it would be a shame to think about it after it happens. Now, all of a sudden, you're in limbo. You're indecisive. But the reason I'm bringing this up is because it's going to happen. It could really happen 1 year from today. So, shouldn't we be pumped, primed, and ready? I mean, think about it. We are going to actually realize that we have just entered the final 7 years to Armageddon. Now, I can't promise you it'll happen 1 year from today. That's the goal. That's what Obama believes. That's what Netanyahu believes. That's what Abbas believes. They all said they thought it was possible. So they're working toward it. They'll be having their first meeting next Thursday, I think it is. They're going to be coming together, Abbas and Netanyahu, face to face every 2 weeks. They're going to be working on this. Now, when they part each 2 weeks, that doesn't mean the talks stop. That simply means they're going to agree on some things, and then all of their advisors and experts will come together to implement the decisions and to flesh out the decisions that they made. So this peace process is going to be ongoing. But I'm asking you out there, and the answer may be different for some of you than others. I made a list of my own. I provoked myself when I was thinking about this today. I made my own list. Okay, what will I do? I'm not sure it's a conclusive list. I think I will do these things, but I really want to think about it some more. I want to lay some very good plans because when this final 7 years hits, I want to be an absolute blur. I want to be in motion. I don't want any wasted time. I want to be on message, moving, going, doing. But now think about this. What will you do? Now, this is my big question. I invite you to call us. The number to call is 877-ENDTIME. Let's just say if. If you knew the final 7 years began today, what would you do? Now, the reason I'm asking this is because this is going to happen. You are going to probably live through this, if you live very long at all. Abbas, Netanyahu, and Obama say, if you live 1 more year, you're going to live through this. I can't promise you on the 1 year, because sometimes these peace negotiations drag, slow down, fall apart. Now, there's a good chance that this whole thing will disintegrate and World War III will hit and you'll live through 1/3 of mankind being destroyed. Well, that's another question. What are you going to do when that happens? So, like it or not, that's where you and I live right now, in the march of Bible prophecy, in the march of human history. That's where you and I live right now, whether you like it or not. Now, this will either be the opportunity of all human history, or else it will be the calamity of all calamities, depending on how you position yourself and what you see your calling is and how you set the goals for your life. So that's what we're talking about. Here's the question. I want to make sure all of you hear. If the final 7 years began 1 year from today, as Abbas, Netanyahu, and Obama are hoping that it will, if the final 7 years prophesied in the Bible began, let's just say today, that helps us to think about it. What would you do? Would you quit your job? Would you sell everything you have? Would you move out of the country? Would you move to Utah? What would you do? Now, I want to ask this before it happens because most people aren't asking you these questions. But because we know what the prophecies of the Bible say, then that makes these very pertinent and real questions for you and I. So give us a call right now. I don't know who wants to be first in line. So far, nobody. Apparently, everybody's waiting on someone else to stick their neck out first. But the number to call is 877-END-TIME. That's 877-363-8463. So give us a call if you'd like to answer the question. In the meantime, let's jump back for a moment, because is there any reason for me to even pose such a question to you? We were discussing yesterday the core issues that are under discussion that Netanyahu and Abbas says, we're going to take these. We're going to take the big 6 or 7, the core issues being, where will the borders be drawn between the Palestinian state and the Israeli nation? The status of refugees that have left the land of Israel over the last 60 years. Do they come back? Do they get their lands back? Are they simply reimbursed financially? How's that going to be handled? What happens to all the settlements that are right now out in the West Bank area, the territories that were captured in the 1967 war? What happens to the settlers? How are we going to deal with that? Are they going to be able to stay there under Palestinian control? Will they leave? Will they be forced to leave? What kind of reparations will be made? What kind of financial reimbursements will be made? What about security? Let's say this Palestinian state now is shoulder to shoulder with the Israeli state. They'll be sharing a long border, plenty of time and plenty of opportunity for terrorism. So how do we assure security if Israel can't believe that she's going to be able to live in peace and security? Then why do it? Why not just go on like you are now? If you're going to have terrorism, if you're going to have continual conflict, if you're going to have continual fear, then why not stay like you are? Things are working pretty decent right now. So why take the chance? Why roll the dice? So we've got to have some insurance of security. And then there's that big water issue. Water is very precious in the Middle East. What good's a state if there's nothing to drink? What good's a state if there's not enough water to raise your crops? That's no life to have. So that's a huge issue. And then finally, what happens to Jerusalem, the place where God said, I will put my name there. It's the capital of the nation of Israel. But the United Nations says, no, it's not. We don't accept that. It's not your capital. It's the only nation in the world that their capital is not accepted. Every other nation has freely chosen its capital. But when Israel chose Jerusalem, the United Nations said, sorry, we don't accept that. And so all the nations of the world have their embassies up in Tel Aviv, about 30 miles from Jerusalem, letting Israel know you don't have a right to put your capital in Jerusalem. Well, now then the Palestinians are claiming they have a right to put their capital there. Will there be a trade-off in these Middle East talks that are in process right now? Well, we're going to have to see. I see the phones are lighting up, and so I've asked the question for all of you out there that are just joining us. I've asked the question today. If you knew the final 7 years began today, and by the way, the leaders of these talks, Obama, Netanyahu, Abbas, they all said they believe it's possible to have a final agreement in place 1 year from today. The Bible teaches that an agreement that settles the borders of Israel, that settles the status of Jerusalem, that places the Temple Mount under international control, under a sharing arrangement, that opens the door for building Israel's third temple, that if that arrangement is struck, that's what's called the confirmation of the covenant, the event that triggers the final 7 years to Armageddon. That's their goal. Every one of those things I mentioned to you has been actually named as part of the core issues that Netanyahu and Abbas will be discussing, and they're actually going to be starting in a couple of days on that. So it's very interesting what's going on. Let's get to the phones right now. And from Indiana, hello, Randy. What do you think?
Hi, Irvin. How are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Great. I've really thought about this over the last many years. What am I going to do when the time really comes? And it just basically boils down to that God orders our footsteps. We're not going to live through the sixth trumpet war if we're not supposed to, and I don't think we can live through the tribulation unless we're supposed to. I expect quite the opposite during the tribulation, but and I've heard other shows where people are talking about, should I buy gold? Well, gold is not going to help you. I'm telling you the truth. I bought some years ago, and all it was a chain around my neck, just an anchor. It was terrible. And if you prepare even for the sixth trumpet war, remember you have to prepare for the people around you more than yourself. You have to prepare your food and water, and it's smart to have those things handy. But remember, our government has passed a law that if you have more than 6 months' worth of food, and I don't know how the Mormons get away with it, which is neither here nor there, but that's considered hoarding in an emergency. The government has gotten our way in every way they possibly can, and I don't know what's going to happen, except I know God's going to win. And
well, Randy, let me interrupt you for a moment there, Randy. Okay, let's say the news just flashed, and you just learned the agreement was struck, and it meets all the criteria of the prophecy. So what's your mindset? What are you thinking about the next 7 years? You got 7 years left. The first 3.5 years is going to be relatively peaceful, and then halfway through the Antichrist is going to be revealed. The pressures are going to come down big time, more than they ever have before. The mark of the beast will be implemented. So what do you have a family?
No.
Okay, well, so you're out there on your own. So what are you going to do?
What I'm personally going to do is I probably won't take the biometric driver's license, and that's going to automatically make me homeless. And all I can do is trust that I'm in God's will and believe that He really is the answer.
Yeah.
As far as preparation goes, they don't make tents that will last 7 years. Everything's dumbed down. They don't make, unless you've got enough money to buy 3 or 4 years of food, you cannot go, like if you were out in the woods, you couldn't go up to a farmer's field and pick an ear of corn to eat, even if you were starving to death. And we have to remember that God provided for the prophets.
Hey, listen, Randy, I've got to let you go. I'm up against the break, but good thoughts. Appreciate it very much. We'll be right back.
Every Monday at 9 p.m. Central on the Church Channel and every Friday at 9:30 p.m. Central on Daystar, Irvin Baxter presents End of the Age. End of the Age is a 30-minute program which gives intricate details about how Bible prophecy is not only true, but also how it lines up so perfectly with events happening in the world right now. Don't miss one End of the Age program every Monday at 9 p.m. Central on the Church Channel and every Friday at 9:30 p.m. Central on Daystar. Visit endtime.com for more details or call 1-800-ENDTIME.
I felt a call at an early age to win the lost, to do God's will in my life.
I feel like nowadays we have more religion than we do relationship.
A lot of young people today think that they just have done something so bad that they can't be forgiven, or they've done something that's just beyond repair.
Weed wasn't enough, pills weren't enough, alcohol wasn't enough.
You know what? I would say that it's not really about the movies or the popularity.